Hey guys, and welcome back to my channel. So I feel like I haven't just sat down and talked to you guys in a long time, and no, I'm not just gonna sit here and ramble through the entire video. I am gonna tell you a story too, but I wanted to let you guys know that I feel like I haven't freaking recorded in like a year because my last video was pre-recorded, and I don't know, I just miss sitting down and talking to you guys. In the last like 3 months, I've gone through 3 jobs. I was working at a hotel as a freaking housekeeper. And just so you guys know, I am half Mexican, and trust me, I got so much shit for that. They were like, oh, it's perfect because you're Mexican, and yeah, people were just giving me a hard time for it, but that shit is hard work. Like, I did not like that, and the hours sucked, and they, like, weren't honest with me, so I ended up quitting that job. And then I ended up going to Kmart, and that job didn't work out because I was doing, like, customer service, and I had done customer service at Walmart before, and I enjoyed that job, but Kmart sucked. Like, there were people that had worked there for like 8 years and never gotten a raise. So after being with Kmart for about 3 weeks, I got a different job, and it's a job that I have now, and I'm actually going to stick this one out. And I'm back at Walmart. And I know that it's kind of dangerous to be like throwing that out there, but yeah, I'm freaking at Walmart, and I'm cashiering right now. And that's actually where I'm telling one of my stories from today, because a couple of nights ago, I had a freaking weird experience. So I've been with Walmart for about 2 weeks now. I did my orientation and my computer training, and then I did 1 day of actual training on a cash register. Normally they do 2 weeks, but I didn't need that because I had worked there before and I kind of just remembered how things worked. And so I'm a cashier, and they gave me like 1 day of training, and this takes place on my 2nd day of like being on my own, but I was watching someone do the register that sells tobacco in my store. So I typically work like evenings or afternoons. Usually I work like till 11 at night, which, if you don't know, creepers come out at night. Like after 9 o'clock, it's not safe. It's not good to be out, but that's the shift that I work, and I actually really enjoy it for the most part because typically it's really busy and that's when people are getting off work and the shift just goes a lot faster. I just like it for some reason. But a couple of nights ago, I was training on our tobacco aisle with this girl, and while we're there, you do returns at night. Like after 9 o'clock, customer service shuts down and the aisle that sells tobacco does the returns and cashes checks. So I'm standing behind this girl that's training me how to do the returns on this register, and this guy walks up. And this dude has like tribal paint on his face. He has black marks underneath his eyes and then red underneath that, and then he has like a black mark down his nose and like on his forehead like a flower almost. I don't know how to explain it, but he's very, very, very tan, but he doesn't look like a guy that's supposed to be tan. He doesn't look like he's Native American or anything like that. He looks like a white guy that went and got a spray tan or stayed in a tanning bed for too long, if that makes sense. The other weird thing that I noticed about him is his clothing. He was wearing like just regular sneakers, and then he was wearing this outfit that had like tribal print on it, and the pants and shirt matched each other. So this guy comes up and he is like bringing a bike up to us, and we're like, okay, like what can we do for you? And he's like, I need to return this bike. I bought it today and it's slowing me down. So my trainer tells me to go and get one of our managers because they have to approve it. I guess if you do it on that lane at night, like they have to approve every return. You can't just do it. And so I go and grab our manager, and she comes over and she checks the bike, and she's like, well, do you have a receipt? And he says, no, I don't. And it doesn't look like one of our bikes. Like, you can usually tell what kind of products come from our store if you work there. Like, it's just something you pick up on. And it didn't look like one of ours, and he told us that he had exchanged it earlier in customer service and they hadn't given him a receipt because he had used Walmart Pay to check out his purchase. But the thing with Walmart Pay is you always get a receipt, just it's saved to your phone instead of a physical copy. The manager decides that he can't do the return without the receipt, and typically that's what we do if it's something that has a serial number on it, which is like electronics, bikes, anything that's pretty expensive. You have to have a serial number because you have to match it with the receipt, and when you ring up an item like that, it asks for the serial number so you can actually make sure that you're getting the right product back. People will try and like buy a new cell phone and then put their old cell phone in the box and try and return it that way, and that's why they have the serial numbers. I mean, that's the important part of it. So this guy is like, well, give me a few minutes, and he walks away and he goes into customer service. And customer service is pretty dark at night. Like, they shut off the lights in there because they don't want anyone going in there. And then right next door to it is the money center, and the money center has the like door things closed. They're not doors, but it's kind of like a door. I don't know how to explain it. But he goes into our customer service area, which is black now because people are done for the night. Like, there's one person in there that works and puts the returns away, but besides that, it's just an empty room. Like, it's really creepy. I also need to throw in that there are a ton of benches by like the bathrooms and kind of by customer service, but not in customer service. But instead of going to one of those benches, this guy goes and sits in front of the ATM in customer service, cross-legged, in the middle of the way, like, to get back to the customer service desk. And the only reason why someone would need to get back there is if you have things that people didn't want that you needed to put in the bins. And right after he went in there, I ended up needing to go and take some returns in there. And it wasn't that big of a deal. Like, you just walk in there and you put them in the bins and then you walk out. Like, it's not a huge deal. So I go in there and I'm walking up to the bins and I look down and realize this dude is on the floor in front of me. And I just kind of smile at him and awkwardly walk around him to put these things away. After I did that, I went back to the register and I had to go and do a couple more things. I had to go take things back to the other sides of the store or whatever. And during this time, I had talked to one of our managers and she was like, yeah, I don't think we're going to be able to do this return. Like, I think he's going to get mad and I don't know how this is going to go. And I'm like, oh gosh, because I hate those type of situations. Like, if I'm the manager, I wouldn't mind it, but being just a cashier and not having any control of the situation makes me feel like crap. And so I'm like, oh gosh, I hope this doesn't end badly for us. So I go and I put the returns away, and then I come back up front and I'm standing with the trainer again, just getting ready to go home. It's like after 10 at this time, and the guy's probably been there for 45 minutes. Eventually he ends up finding his receipt and bringing it back up to us, and he wants to return the bike, which is no big deal, and the serial numbers match and the bike checks out okay. And so I'm standing up there quietly watching the trainer do this because I want to see how everything's done and kind of just absorbing this. And he looks at me and he says my name. And for those of you who don't know, my name is Jasmine. So he says, Jasmine, huh? And I'm like, yeah. And he says, I didn't know that pretty girls came from here. And I just kind of awkwardly laugh because if you've been watching my channel for a while, you know that I'm like, you know, in a relationship, pretty happy, been with the guy for a very long time. But he like is flirting with me and I'm trying to focus and not really draw attention to it because he seems kind of creepy. And we're like doing this exchange with the bike, and while we're doing this, out of nowhere he says, don't worry about me, my tribe's gonna come get me. He says that his tribe is going to come get him. And so I just kind of smile at him and I'm like, oh, okay, cool. And the girl that's training me, she speaks English, but not fluently, if that makes sense. Like, she can make it work, but it's not the way that I would talk to like a normal person. Like, you just have to kind of work with it, and that's okay, like no big deal. But she's just kind of looking at me like, oh my gosh, what the fuck? And I'm like, right? But he ends up returning the bike, and then right after we finish the transaction, he's like, oh wait, and we're like, oh gosh, what? And he's like, I need to return this cord too, and it's one of the cords that like you connect around the bike so people don't steal it. What the frick is that called? It's like a lock. Anyways, so he wants to return that too, and it doesn't have a UPC, which makes it way harder and everything, and the entire time he is flirting with me. And during this time also, it's getting closer to time for me to leave, and I look up and freaking Ben, my significant other, is walking into the store, and I'm like, oh, thank the Lord, hallelujah. And so he walks up and I'm like, hi, how's it going? And I go over and like grab his hand because I want to make it known that I am not available, and I don't want this guy to be like waiting out in the parking lot by my car or anything like that. Like, I don't want anything creepy to happen. And so I like go over and I'm like, you know, holding on to Ben, and he's just like, what's going on? And I was like, nothing. So I end up clocking out for the night, and we go and we have to do some shopping. And the first thing that Ben says to me is, what's up with the tribal dude? And I just start laughing because as we're walking away, I just want to tell him the story of what happened, like about the guy creeping on me, but I can't. And so once we get towards the back, I tell him everything, and he's like, what the hell? And he just like makes fun of me for it basically. And I'm like, no, you're supposed to protect me. But anyways, that's basically how that one ended. The guy never ended up like actually stalking me or anything. It was just very like weird how he was hitting on me, and I was just like, this is uncomfortable. And this guy looks like he was probably like 35 and I'm 21. 21, not 20. So anyways, that was my first creepy story. The second thing that happened to me happened yesterday, or no, maybe it was like 2 days ago. Anyways, last time I worked, I was at my register on my own, and like I said, I'm pretty new to it. It was my first day, like, actually being alone 100% of the day. And so I'm on a register. I think I was on, like, register 13 or something, which is a belt, which means you can have lots of stuff come through at one time. And I'm just there, like, checking people out and getting their stuff ready and, like, making conversation the way a cashier should. I'm like, how you doing? Did you find everything okay today? How's the weather out there? Is it still really hot? You know, things like that. Things that you would generally talk about. And this guy comes up to my line, and he is probably 60, I would guess. He's an older gentleman in one of the ride-around carts. He has white hair and a big old belly, and I have a thing for old guys. I just love them. Like, they have a place in my heart, and they can do no wrong until they start creeping on me. So at first when this guy comes up to me, he's like being just normal and friendly and it's not a big deal. And then he just kind of changes. Like, I don't know how to explain it, but he just kind of, I felt it. Like, it felt weird in my gut. And I was like, oh gosh, what the heck? And he leans in a little bit over the register and he's like, Jasmine, I have to tell you, you have the most beautiful smile. And maintains eye contact with me the entire time. And so, obviously, I just smile at him and I'm like, oh, thanks. And he's like, you just made my day. And typically that wouldn't creep me out that bad, but it was just the way that he, like, changed and the way he said it and the way he, like, leaned in. I was like, oh my gosh, this is so awkward right now. But I was just like, oh, well, thanks. You know, I hope you have a great day. And instead of leaving like you normally would when you're done checking out, he just kind of sat there for a minute and stared at me, and then he rode away. And it was just very awkward, and I was like, okay, that's not the worst thing. But the good thing about that is that I still had like several hours of my shift left, which meant that I like was good to not have a stalker. I mean, if he wanted to wait for 4 hours, then good for him, but you know, typically someone's not gonna do that. Anyways, guys, I just wanted to sit down and talk a little bit and share these weird stories that have been happening to me, and I'm sure that I'll get a lot more, especially once I get more into my night shift routines. Right now I'm working mornings like 7 in the morning-ish until 3, and the reason why I'm doing that is because they still have me on a trainer schedule. I'll typically be working nights, and that's when you have like the different experiences. So when things happen, I'll probably sit down and talk about them just because I think it's interesting to like share these events, and I like to look back at these later and be like, oh gosh, I remember that happening. Like, it just helps me remember everything. And I like to tell these stories when they happen because then I can like remember the details better. And the other thing that I wanted to tell you guys is I'm thinking about moving to Washington. So if that happens, that'll be really exciting. And then I'll have different stories, and maybe I'll work at Walmart there too. But anyways, I just wanted to sit down and talk to you guys. I really have not been feeling good today. Like, my throat hurts. So if I sound different or if this video sounded crappy, I'm so sorry. But I did just want to film something. I don't know, I miss you guys. I miss recording and I miss reading stories, but I just didn't think that I could actually make it through reading a story because those take quite a bit more time than like just this type of video. Like, when I read those stories, I mess up so many times and I have to go back and cut certain parts and then like just put them all together. Oh gosh. I just freaking knocked my microphone over. Are you kidding me? Anyways, though, I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and if you did, make sure you give it a thumbs up, and my next video should be another story time, and I might do 2 of them depending how long they are. Like, I try to read the longer stories because I want you guys to enjoy them, but I also, like, doing 2 of them would take a lot longer. But if you guys want that, I totally will be willing to do that. Like, it's not that big of a deal. But anyways, yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed this, and I'll talk to you in my next video. Bye!
Open eye, feel the waves cut through me, hypnotized by the sounds I'm breathing.